Good day, everyone. For teleSUR, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. A commission of foreign ministers from the Union of South American Nations continues its meeting in Uruguay to discuss U.S. sanctions against Venezuela. Representatives from Colombia, Ecuador, and Venezuela, along with the Secretary General of UNASUR, rejected any aggression against a member state and said they will seek to reopen a dialogue between Washington and Caracas. Ecuador's foreign minister says it's very important that UNASUR react swiftly to the United States' unilateral measures against Venezuela.
It's very important to have an immediate reaction. That's why we held this meeting, and we hope our action can help promote peace and restore a spirit of harmony and dialogue, not only among ourselves, the member states of UNASUR. Above all, we wanted to offer support and protection, but also to prevent nations from outside the region from damaging the peace and stability of our countries.
It was last week that the United States imposed new sanctions against Venezuela, a move which the non-aligned movement denounced as an intervention into Venezuelan affairs. In a statement issued on Saturday, the movement of 120 countries called the sanctions a violation of international law. It also characterized them as contrary to the UN Charter and the basic principles of relations between states. The sanctions target unnamed Venezuelan officials supposedly involved in human rights violations during last year's opposition protests. But Venezuela points out that the overwhelming majority of the 43 deaths during those protests were caused by right-wing extreme violence. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro commented on the UNASUR meeting during a televised address on Saturday night. He says that international solidarity is critical for Venezuela to overcome the destabilization efforts coming from Washington.
I hope that our brothers and sisters in Latin and South America support us in time, in order to combat the threats that the United States government and its agents are making against the peace, sovereignty and independence of Venezuela.
10 kidnapping victims in the state of Guerrero, Mexico have been freed by a group of community police. We go to our correspondent in Mexico, Clayton Kahn.
It's being reported that 10 of 12 people who were kidnapped this past Friday in the community of Cocula, Guerrero, the same town that authorities say that the 43 Ayotzinapa students were killed, have now been freed by a group of independent community police. It was reported on Friday evening that the group of people, including workers from a nearby gold mine, were kidnapped near the neighborhood of Nuevo Balsas in Cocula by an armed group of 20 to 30 men in military and police uniforms. Federal authorities have said that at least 3 people have been detained for the kidnapping, including 1 minor. The 10 victims showed signs of dehydration, and one of the kidnapped victims had bullet wounds to the arm and leg. Members of the local police of Cocula were previously detained in relation to their participation in the enforced disappearance of the 43 Ayotzinapa students. The authorities have argued that the students were also executed outside of this town. However, independent groups and their families deny this claim. This is Clayton Kahn reporting for teleSUR here in Mexico City.
And thanks to Clayton. Developments in the case involving the death of prosecutor Alberto Nisman continue to unfold in Argentina. A number of Argentinian scholars issued a 9-page open letter on Monday claiming that Nisman's death was a result of a covert operation intended to damage the government's image ahead of the presidential elections later this year. Now, for more on that, we go to our correspondent Leonel Poblete in Buenos Aires.
Yes, a group of prosecutors who are usually at odds with the government of Cristina Fernández de Kirchner have summoned a rally which they have named the March of Silence, scheduled for February 18, which will be the 1-month anniversary of federal prosecutor Alberto Nisman's death. It has been endorsed by the leaders of the opposition who have confirmed they will attend. Meanwhile, various members of the government have firmly criticised the initiative. The General Secretary of the Presidency, Aníbal Fernández, criticised political leaders who have been using the rally for cheap politics, he said. In regards to the investigation itself, until now, the prosecutor, Viviana Fein, has not ruled out suicide nor homicide, and the death remains unexplained. Reporting from Buenos Aires, Leo Polete Goluti, teleSUR.
And thanks to Leonel. In a statement addressed to the government on Sunday, FARC guerrillas declared that they are willing to become a political party. Now, the hope is that by becoming a party, the armed conflict that has lasted for more than 5 decades would not re-emerge. The declaration represents one of the most important breakthroughs to be achieved during the current peace talks. Colombian farmers from San Juan de Sumapaz on the outskirts of Bogota met over the weekend to discuss their support for the peace process being negotiated in Havana. The Sumapaz community has long suffered as a result of the armed conflict. Last year, a group of 14 farmers was charged with rebellion and aiding the FARC guerrillas. The farmers themselves, however, reject the claims that they are linked to the rebel army.
We don't understand this situation. If there's a conflict between two forces that have arms, why do they have to go after the farmers? The only thing we have is a machete and a hoe.
Some Peruvians are growing increasingly concerned over their rights to access public beaches. Now, despite a Peruvian law that guarantees its population the right to enter with no discrimination, private companies are controlling the entrance to beaches. Lima's residents have complained to the authorities but claim the police are helping the private security guards in maintaining the beach's privatization. Farmers in the community of Monrepos in St. Lucia are helping to boost food security in their area. They have embarked on a program geared at self-sufficiency and greater food production while adopting sustainable agricultural practices. Here's Allison Kentish.
Farmers say government is expected to assist nationals, but sometimes it is just as important to look out for oneself and each other. Through this program, the farmers are working together for a common purpose, to remain in business and ensure local food production. Bernard John Baptist says the project uses sustainable agricultural practices as farmers grapple with the effects of climate change.
If we notice over the past year, the kind of experience we have had with the weather, it has been more hotter than cold. You get a lot more heat than rain now. So all practices you engage in, it has to be geared at conserving moisture.
Paul Francis heads the program. He says it will concentrate on organic farming.
To pesticides, fertilizers, all our practices. In fact, well, we don't even really burn the soil. We don't use any Gromoxone. We'll be using things like Bafster, which is an organic herbicide.
Those involved in the program say this model of communal farming has proven successful in many countries, and those who earn their living from the land have benefited from sharing knowledge and practices to boost production. The farmers say the goal of this program is to ensure a sustainable future for themselves and their families. From Castries, St. Lucia, Alison Kentish for teleSUR English.
And thanks to Allison. Greece's new Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras, announces his government's plan to tackle the country's economic crisis. During a speech to Parliament, Tsipras outlined a series of measures that are part of a two-phase plan to remedy the country's fiscal problems. The new PM also expressed his party's intention to pay the debt.
What the government seeks in its negotiations with its partners is a new agreement in a bridge program until June, so that we can have the fiscal breathing space to renegotiate the debt and to renegotiate a new cooperation and growth program between Greece and the European partners.
Taking a more detailed look now at Tsipras' speech, the Prime Minister said he will provide free electricity to 300,000 homes, as well as reestablish a free universal health care system. Tsipras also stated that there will be a prohibition of evictions of first-time home owners and that his government will cut excessive spending on public sector privileges for officials such as security and transportation. The Prime Minister also announced a tax reform plan which will seek to halt tax fraud and evasion, something that costs Greece around 12 billion euros per year. Efforts to achieve peace in Ukraine continue as German Chancellor Angela Merkel meets with U.S. President Barack Obama in Washington. Both heads of state will be discussing the new peace plan proposed by France and Germany, but which has been greeted by U.S. skepticism. In a potential move that would lead to escalation of the conflict, the United States has been considering providing weapons to the Ukrainian military. And meanwhile, peace efforts in Ukraine have been renewed as the Ukrainian government announced that a contact group will meet on Wednesday ahead of a new round of dialogue to be held in Belarus. The contact group is made up by representatives of the rebel forces, a government delegation, and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, which has been monitoring the conflict. But as the peace efforts continue, so do the clashes in eastern Ukraine. Earlier on Monday, an army shell hit a chemical plant in Donetsk, causing a massive explosion that is affecting residential areas. Shock waves from the explosion have shattered windows and created a series of tremors. The local rebel government was able to control the fire caused by that attack and avoid a chemical spill. Palestinians are taking advantage of a brief respite in the humanitarian crisis affecting the coastal enclave. For an explanation, here's our correspondent, Noor Harazin.
Today in the Gaza Strip, the Israeli authorities opened Karm Shalom goods border with Gaza, allowing several trucks of food and humanitarian aid to enter the Gaza Strip in order to be delivered to needy families whom were affected in the latest Israeli summer offensive on the Gaza Strip. At the same time, thousands of employees in the Gaza Strip are right now standing in long lines in front of the banks because finally and after almost 3 months of waiting, they will get paid half of their salaries. The salaries problems have been taking over the Gaza Strip over the past 3 months. However, the Palestinian Unity government is helping to ease the situation in the Gaza Strip a little bit and offer the employees some of their salaries.
And thanks to Nora, a result of an investigation into a massive leak from the world's second largest bank, HSBC, was released on Monday. The investigation shows how the bank advised its clients to hide millions in Swiss bank accounts. Former Ecuadorian candidate Alvaro Noboa appears on the list of people with Swiss accounts, as well as current Paraguayan President Horacio Cartes. The report is based on files released by hacker Irv Facciani in 2007. Clashes between football fans and the police have left at least 19 people dead in Egypt. Authorities claimed the violent outburst came after several fans tried to enter the already filled stadium. The Egyptian Premier League has been suspended indefinitely, and authorities are investigating whether police forces or football fans were responsible for the deaths. The 14th Oruro Music Festival began in Bolivia this weekend, featuring more than 7,000 musicians. This year's event pays tribute to 4 musicians who died in last year's festival when a catwalk collapsed. The accident took the lives of members of the Spectacular Pulpul Band. The authorities say security is guaranteed at this year's festival and have invited both Bolivians and foreign tourists to come and enjoy the music. More on those stories and others at our websites. Check it out, telesurtv.net/English for teleSUR English. I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.